Most curious creature, Captain. Its trilling seems to have a tranquilizing effect on the human nervous system. Fortunately, of course, I am immune to its effect.
Welcome, royalty, roundheads, and Validium, to the 95th production of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 4th of March, 2015, and featuring Silver Nemesis, written by Kevin Clark. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell. Matt? You there?
Apparently we've lost Matt.
Yeah. Hello? Matthew?
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Always a pleasure.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Yo-ho!
We've got quite a bit of news this week. Unfortunately, we've got a bit of a downer that we need to start off with. I'm sure most of you have heard about.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Alright, so let's see here.
Sad news.
Yes, as everybody knows, the famous Leonard Nimoy has passed on. He was 83 years old. The cause was chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which he announced he had had last year. And it was pretty much a result of him smoking, even though he had given up smoking 30 years ago. So, and apparently he was hospitalized earlier this week. He's, of course, famous for his portrayal as Spock on Star Trek, in all of Star Trek's iterations, almost, I think.
Yep.
And he is survived by his wife. I'm not sure if they had any children, though. They should have. They had children, right?
Yeah,
None of the articles I saw mentioned if he did or didn't.
I think he had like 7 children and 2 grandchildren.
Oh. Well, he was also known for poetry, photography, and music. Of course, he wrote the Bilbo Baggins. He performed the Bilbo Baggins song, I believe.
The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins, yes.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, he was just a really good. I loved him on Star Trek. He also preferred Star Trek fans to be called Trekkers rather than Trekkies, apparently, according to this article I'm looking at now.
He had 2 children.
Ah, okay.
2 children.
Adam and Julie Nimoy.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Yes, and he also he performed on stage too, particularly in Fiddler on the Roof. He was also in other TV series such as Mission Impossible. He also had roles in various movies. Let me see here.
One of them was a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, as I recall.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he also performed in A Streetcar Named Desire on stage.
He's also a director.
Oh,
yep,
yes.
He's a director. He directed Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4.
3 Men and a Baby.
Episodes of T.J. Hooker, Night Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. Didn't know about Night Gallery.
Yep.
I think.
And he was apparently married to Susan Bay, the cousin of director Michael Bay, but don't hold that against him.
Yeah. He actually has 6 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. So he he seems to have lived a very prosperous life.
Yeah,
Very prosperous, very full life.
He lived long and prospered. Is that what you're telling us?
that's
I
pretty much
guess.
what they said on his obituary on CNN. But of course, with him dead, of course, this means that the lottery odds are being drawn for which of the original series main cast is going to go next.
Well,
I don't know. The last time he died, he managed to direct his resurrection by flickering his eyelids on. So.
Actually,
I'm pretty sure this one's a little more permanent.
Yeah.
I'm
actually just seeing here that he also was he hosted one of my favorite TV shows I used to watch in the mornings before school, In Search of, which is a mystery show where they look for the Loch Ness Monster and UFOs and stuff like that. I always thought it was.
Yeah, he did that in the late 70s, early 80s, if I recall.
Yep.
I will also add that he's done many fantastic things in modern times outside of just the movies as well. He has gone to probably hundreds of conventions at this point already. Also, I want to say it was around this time last year. He literally went to Twitter as himself and went, "Hey everybody, you want an unofficial grandfather? Just talk to me. I'll be your unofficial grandfather." And within 24 hours, he's saying, "I have the most fantastic grandchildren now."
Unfortunately, everybody's unofficial grandfather died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much for that concept. Like I said, the odds are now on which of the remaining 4 members of the original series main cast will die next. I believe the odds on unfavorite, meaning, of course, the one that's most likely, I believe, is Nichelle Nichols at this point. Because all the others are looking pretty strong.
So far, yes.
Yeah.
Also, I will say that William Shatner was also very depressed this week because he couldn't make it to the funeral because he was stuck. Oh, he did?
Oh, did he?
The last minute.
Speaking of making it, you know who wasn't able to make it? Westboro Baptist Church, who swore they were going to picket it, but nobody knows why. But they could not figure out where it was. So great job to everyone involved in this funeral.
Yes. Bill Shatner, though, originally was not going to make it because he had an obligation for a Red Cross charity in Florida, the complete opposite side of the country from Nimoy's funeral. But he managed to catch either a charter or an express flight across country following the benefit, and while I don't think he was there for the beginning of the funeral, I think he made the end of it.
I think Leonard Nimoy would have understood.
Oh yeah, that's what the general fan reaction has been.
Online, like he should have had the Red Cross pay him to fly out and shit. And I'm like, wait a second, why is he raising money for them if he's going to take the money for something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some lunacy. Yeah, I don't know how he did it, but I heard he did manage to make the end of the funeral.
I'm sure he booked it through Priceline.
Of course.
Yes.
But yeah, of course, this is not exactly Doctor Who news, but it's a sad day that this happened for science fiction fans everywhere.
Yeah.
Prosper. Well, in other news that's more related to Doctor Who, last Sunday, March 1st, would have been the 97th birthday of Roger Cesar Marius Bernard de Delgado Torres Castillo Roberto, or just Roger Delgado.
Who, hell of a name.
It's Spanish, Matt. Spanish names go on for like 5 hours.
For about 10 sentences.
Well, they incorporate more than just the surname of the family. I believe it's kind of more complicated than that.
It's several generations of maiden names and such.
Yeah.
Yep. Is most famous for playing the Master in Doctor Who.
The original
Master.
Who I say.
During the Third Doctor's era. Says Roger Delgado was killed in a car crash in 1973. So
that's pretty much when the Third Doctor decided that it was time to possibly call it quits because he just lost one of his closest friends while enacting.
It was a contributing factor, yeah. There
It
were a
was one of
few
the
other
contributing
things
factors.
that were causing it. And I think he was having some issues with the production staff at the time, but that was kind of the icing on the cake there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read that Roger Delgado was the embodiment of the trope mean character, nice actor.
I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised.
the interesting part was, of course, that they were planning on actually killing the Master off in that final season of the Third Doctor.
Yep. That's what Planet of the Spiders was going to be.
Well, it's what Planet of the Spiders replaced.
Right. Yeah.
Because,
I mean, it wasn't about spiders, but I'm saying that's what would have been in that.
Yeah, and of course the fact that Delgado died meant they were unable to do that, meaning they had to change everything. It was going to turn out that the Master was going to be the Doctor's secret brother, but something they made fun of later on during the third series of New Who.
Kind of. Yeah.
So, happy birthday, Roger, wherever you are.
Probably up in the great beyond, playing checkers with Leonard Nimoy right now.
Master was more of a chess person.
Checkers, chess.
I hope they're playing that 3D chess from...
I love 3D chess.
Renomer.
All right, take it we're moving on.
Yep.
Okay, so separate from our birthdays and deaths, the British Film Institute has announced a tribute event to honor Verity Lambert, the original producer of Doctor Who for the first two seasons back in the 60s. Following Doctor Who was her first production title, following which she became one of the most successful producers in British film and television history. This tribute event is being held as part of their Women in Film season, and will be followed by a brief retrospective of some of her rarer titles, including The Norman Conquests, Comics, and Achilles' Heel. The 90-minute panel event will take place April 1st, ironically, at 6:10 p.m. at the BFI South Bank, and will be hosted by Richard Marson, who is writing a biography, Drama and Delight, The Life of Verity Lambert. Guests include Joanna Lumley, who played the alternate 13th Doctor in Curse of Fatal Death, and Linda DePlant, and the discussion will be interspersed with clips of many of her most memorable productions, probably a lot of Doctor Who. Marson's book is going to be available at the event, and Richard will be signing it from around 7:45 p.m. at the BFI shop. Tickets to the season are available from March 10th, and this is, of course, in England, so if you want to go and you're in the United States, be prepared for a big trip.
Yep. Might add that I, really quickly on the previous article with Delgado, that apparently I started my vlog series on the same day that he was born. Which is a little funny. Random happenstance. Anyway.
You know, the thing is, Matt, there are billions of people on this planet. It's always going to be somebody's birthday. And odds are there's going to be at least one famous birthday on any day you do something.
I was born the same day as Alice Cooper and George A. Romero.
Exactly my point.
Good company.
But yeah, that sounds like an interesting little thing if you happen to be in the area.
So, moving on, Bill.
Our next bit of news, we actually have a few book launches to release, both through BBC and independent. So the first one I'm going to mention is our an independent book release by author Philip Sandifer, best known for his TARDIS Eruditorum series. And this is actually a spin-off book from his it's actually based off of an essay from his fifth volume, which it covers the latter half of the Fourth Doctor era. This is a book named Recursive Occlusion, and is essentially an improved version of his Legopolis entry. It's sort of a choose your own adventure, or as it's referred to here, select your own continuum. 120 pages. It's $15 and is not available in ebook, unlike his previous books, and is essentially a special edition thing that was it was spun off of a Kickstarter stretch goal for his one of his previous Kickstarters, so it sort of grew and developed from there. So if you're a huge fan of the author or of just analyzing Doctor Who and of Legopolis, it's something you can pick up on CreateSpace or get the link to by going to the author's website on philipsandiford.com.
So it's a choose your own adventure?
Yeah, it looks like
it's basically a choose your own adventure. I think if you read the notes, I think it leads to 13 possible regenerations, one of them obviously being Peter Davison and the others being whatever else happens from there. So I have not read much of it myself, only just what's been mentioned about it, so I couldn't really tell you much of the details.
Although that does explain why it wouldn't be an ebook. Unless your ebook system includes hyperlinks, trying to do any form of a choose your own adventure book is nigh impossible. Because
the interesting thing is the original version of this essay apparently is in the ebook version of the of his Fourth Doctor book. So somehow he did manage to get it to work into at least a lesser version of this into an ebook format.
Well, was his previous version a choose your own adventure?
It was. That's how it initially was on the site, and then he just took the essays from the site, re-edited them, added whatever he needed to, and put them into the books.
Because normally, the thing about choose your own adventures is, of course, you'll read a bit of text and then you're like, if you want to do this, go to this page. If you want to do that, go to this other page. If you want to do something else entirely, go to the page after that. The
reason I mentioned that was actually that one of the comments, I think, on the article about this mentioned that in their version of TARDIS Eruditorum Volume 5, the version of this essay that's included there does work, as the choose your own selection options there. Although it does probably depend on the ebook reader you're reading it in.
Yeah, probably does. I know several websites are set up to do that kind of thing, but I was a big fan of the original Choose Your Own Adventures way back in the 80s. As a kid, I probably had about 24 of them.
By the way, some of them have been getting gradually converted into video games now.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they make easy text adventure games.
I mean, that's pretty much what a lot of those I forget what they're called. But a lot of those video
visual novels.
I'm not referring to. I'm talking about
not visual novels, Aaron. Those are just normal, flat-out stories.
They're essentially.
No,
I'm trying to think of the name of the video games, other than the fact that I honestly cannot remember the name of. But there's a lot of older
FMV?
video games when the big. FMV video games. There we go. A lot of them were essentially in that format, except video instead of text.
Oh.
Okay.
Anyway,
Everyone
$15.
Yeah.
Not bad price.
And if you want something else to fill up your bookshelf with, BBC Books is publishing an anthology of short stories on Thursday, March 5th. Hey, it's my birthday.
Oh.
Doctor Who Time Trips. It's going to be a beautifully illustrated collection of Doctor Who short stories written by best-selling and award-winning authors including Joanne Harris, Cecilia Ahern, Nick Harkaway, and A.L. Kennedy. At turns frightening and funny, poignant and gripping, and the Time Trips stories journey from ancient Alexandria to 16th century England to mysterious plants in this future, and feature doctors across the history of the program. Looks like they're going to include doctors like the 4th, 11th, 10th, 3rd, 6th, and 2nd.
And 12th.
And 12th, yeah. Yeah, the 12th is the special bonus one you get.
The BBC has been putting out a lot of these short story anthologies recently.
Well, this one apparently started out as individual ebooks.
Yeah, I was going to say that Aaron and I were at Barnes and Noble the other day, and they had one that was basically one short story for each Doctor. And it raised my eyebrow to discover that one of the writers for one of the short stories in there was our favorite writer, Neil Gaiman.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's good.
They should publish a book of all the fan fiction that people like Peter Capaldi and David Tennant submitted throughout the years.
You know, probably people like Peter Capaldi and David Tennant are trying rapidly to hide all of that fan fiction they wrote.
No. There's
Nope,
nothing here.
none of
Nothing
this.
here. Nothing here.
None of
Shovel
this.
it under the
I'm
carpet.
a professional now. I've been a part of the series. I'm hiding it all.
Although in the case of Tennant, it would be rather interesting to publish a book of fan fiction about your father-in-law.
Yeah. Also disturbing. You want to bet there was a big fire at the place up in Scotland where he just basically burned all of his old fiction.
That's going in the fire. That's going into the fire. Oh no, that was some bad artwork when I was 5. That's going in the fire too.
Yeah, can't let Georgia see this. Can't let Georgia see that.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Honey,
Well,
what are you burning out there?
There
Nothing.
goes my
Nothing.
Peter Davis
Oh,
and
no.
Anthony Ainley slash fic.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure Tennant didn't write that.
Unless he was tripping balls on something.
Plausible deniability. All right. So, if you've ever wanted to showcase your love of Doctor Who in inclement weather, Lavarzi is giving you the chance with 2 officially licensed Doctor Who umbrellas. Two designs. One features the TARDIS on an alien landscape, reminiscent of the Doctor's home planet of Gallifrey. And the other is just a bunch of TARDISes all in a row around.
I want to call BS on that article. The article mentions it'll keep you dry whether you're on Marinus, etc. I feel like there might be some acid in the rain on Marinus that these umbrellas might not be ready for.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, you know, if you're going to license an official Doctor Who umbrella, make it the freaking 7th Doctor umbrella.
That's
That is
what I was
true.
thinking. Or at least have these umbrellas have the red handle.
Yeah.
Yes,
Or the 4th and 6th Doctor umbrellas as well would work.
right. I mean, the thing is that the 6th Doctor one is a little outshone by the Kaylee Fry umbrellas that are out there, but still it would be worth selling.
Yeah,
Sure,
I mean,
people would buy.
having a replica 4th or 6th Doctor umbrella is like having the replica 7th Doctor scarf. Nobody remembers it from the show. It's not iconic like the 4th
I think
Doctor
Colin
scarf.
Baker's umbrella was eye-catching enough for people to remember
Well,
it.
yeah, it's eye-catching. I caught it more than a couple times.
You know, I
That's
had
why I
a golf
have one.
umbrella once just like that, so it's not really that unusual. The thing about the 7th Doctor one is it was iconic.
Yes.
Of the
Seven.
character,
I mean,
yes.
I absolutely agree. If I could, I would have bought a 7th Doctor umbrella by now if I could find one for less than $100 or less than.
Yeah.
Well, I think I could find the handle for $75.
Yeah, and you know, it's just a plastic red question mark handle. It's not like it's not manufacturable.
Right.
Why the BBC hasn't licensed one by now, I don't know. I don't know what goes through their mind. But if you look at this article, it mentions the best-selling 4th Doctor scarf, our 5th Doctor jumper. Those are replica items.
Right.
The Doctor actually wore those. So if I was going to have an umbrella, I would want to have a replica umbrella that the Doctor actually carried.
He never had an umbrella with a TARDIS and the word Doctor on it.
No.
Right.
Yeah, just in case he got amnesia.
Oh, that's right. I'm the Doctor.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if it had the words Doctor on it, it was stenciled on the inside, property of the Doctor, please return to the
Right.
TARDIS.
So that's what my car looks like.
I love how this article says it's a luxurious rubber-coated handle.
Wow. They're really, really, really trying to pimp this umbrella like it's something special, and it's not.
Yeah.
Buy your umbrellas.
Made with high-quality fiberglass frame, aluminum shaft, and comfortable plastic and rubber-coated handle. And it comes in a specially made carry case, which means those little sleeves you can tuck the umbrella into.
I mean, the ones I always lose?
Yes.
Yes. The ones that it
yes,
never fits into once it's wet.
sleeve.
Yes.
By the way, hon, have you remembered to buy the Venture Brothers bed sheets set?
No.
The luxurious Adventure Brothers bed sheet set? It's limited supply, hon. We better get on this. 300 thread count.
That is the magic word. The word luxurious should be in all advertisements.
Remember when people used to always use riveting for movie reviews?
Yes.
God.
Well, they also
If you
always
use
did
the word
movie
riveting in
reviews
your
by
review,
the
you're
same
guaranteed
announcer.
to be quoted on the DVD
In a
case.
world where, you know.
Matter of fact, I think the back of my Escape from New York DVD said riveting.
Yeah, riveting is one of those things that you can slip like $20 to some guy to have him say about your movie. I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there that reviewed Ishtar with that.
Ishtar can go burn in hell.
Yeah.
I've seen the advertisement for that movie now in the last 3 months, at least 5 times, and I hate that movie just by its advertisement alone.
Wait, which movie was this?
Ishtar.
Okay, I think we can move on to the next
Far
piece.
off topic now.
Yep,
Yeah,
moving.
a little bit.
Yeah,
The gate
detangenting.
was better.
The 41st annual Saturn Award nominations have been announced, and yep, Doctor Who is up for 2 of the awards. The show itself is listed for the Best Youth-Oriented Television Series category. It is up against The 100 on the CW, Pretty Little Liars on some network I don't know, Supernatural, which I believe is also CW, Teen Wolf, which is MTV, and The Vampire Diaries. Is that CW as well? Wow.
CW is putting out a lot of supernatural stuff ever since Buffy went under, didn't it?
It's also putting out a lot of youth-oriented stuff, which is kind of interesting. Jenna Coleman has been nominated in the Best Supporting Actress in a Television Series category. Her competition is in the form of Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones,
Ouch.
Carolyn Danvers from Hannibal,
Yeah.
Lexa Doig from Continuum,
Yeah.
Emily Kinney from The Walking Dead,
Ouch.
and Melissa McBride, also from The Walking Dead.
I get the feeling that it's going to be a really tight one between her and the 2 Walking Dead gals and the
Game of
one
Thrones.
from Game of Thrones.
No. She's going up against Daenerys Targaryen. She'll sick her dragons on her.
Yeah,
I'm sure Clara could handle a few dragons.
As long as she's got the TARDIS.
You know, which would win, dragons or zombies? Because yes, while you have dragons, you can have a buttload of zombies, though. Especially since you're talking about Walking Dead, because then you've got about 6 billion zombies.
And if the dragon
I
happens
don't
to
know
land on
about
the
you,
ground,
but
could the
I
zombies
prefer to
bite it
walk
and turn
away-
into a zombie
I prefer
dragon?
to walk away with a zombie dragon.
I don't know. She's going up
That's
against
probably
Beth.
the considering the fact that the Walking Dead zombies are contagious, the zombie dragon would be the inevitable conclusion of said conflict, Bill.
Could a zombie
I'm
dragon still
pretty
breathe
sure-
fire?
I'm pretty sure Jenna Coleman couldn't beat a zombie dragon. Just saying.
By the way, the actresses from Walking Dead that are listed, I should know because Brandy and I watch this show all the time, are Beth, who is played by Emily, and Melissa plays, Carol. Plays Carol.
You know what confuses me about this article? According to this, the last time Doctor Who won this award was in a year that they had one episode? Doctor Who won in 1997, which would mean that it was for the 1996 season.
Which would have meant that they won for the 96 movie. And that was... I'm wondering if that actually was supposed to be 2007 and somebody erred.
If they did error, they erred
Maybe.
really hard.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the last time they won, because they also won Best International Series in 2008.
Which would have been Series 4 or Series 3. And then Children of Earth won as the Best Presentation on Television category. I wonder what they were smoking at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There must have been nothing on TV that year, Jesus.
I know. I've come upon other people who think Children of Earth is the best thing, next best thing to sliced bread. I'm like, well, you eat a lot of white bread, don't you?
This said
Laced
from a
with
woman that
cocaine.
eats a lot of white bread.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
White bread laced with cocaine, because cocaine gives you
the
powers!
The Saturn Awards are presented by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films and will be taking place on the 25th of June, 2015. So that's in like 3 months.
Anyone else think the Saturn Awards statue looks kind of freaky?
Well, it's supposed to be Saturn on a pedestal, but really it looks like Saturn with a fist coming out the bottom.
I thought it was a woman who was missing her torso and just had Saturn for her torso.
I don't know. It looks like a fist to me.
It looks to me like a UFO trying to beam somebody
you
up.
Turn it upside down, and it's like Saturn for, like, worker power.
Unions.
Wait, is this Saturn Shrugged?
In a world where the communists have all moved to the planet Saturn.
Wait, is this a DC comic?
So, moving on with Doctor Who, we've got our usual Big Finish bits of news. Dark Eyes 4, which we've talked about a little bit over the past week or two, is now up for download, so 8th Doctor fans, get your ass there. And the Third Doctor is having a box set of adventures. Now, this is not Companion Chronicles. This is actually a recast Third Doctor along with companions. I thought this link had... Okay, here we go.
Who do they got to play the third?
Tim Traylor, who played the Third Doctor in Light at the End, along with Katie Manning, who is Joe Grant, and Richard Franklin, which I'm pretty sure is Mike Yates.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I believe, a 5-disc box set that is being released in October, and the cover is now revealed, which, fittingly enough, has John Pertwee's face mostly shadowed out.
Seriously?
I guess to symbolize the recasting.
You know who they should get to play the Third Doctor?
His son?
Sean Pertwee, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently doesn't he sound and look a lot like him?
His accent's a little bit of a different accent, but I'm pretty sure if you said, yeah, we want you to sound like your father, he could probably pull it off. But the vocal range is pretty much right where he's supposed to be.
Plus, I'm pretty sure any actor who grew up as the child of another actor has probably done plenty of impressions of his father that he could do one on command.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure if you put a white-haired wig on Sean Pertwee and you put him in the smoking jacket and cape, he could pretty much be an ad hoc Third Doctor for about anything.
Didn't he already do that for Halloween?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
We already discussed
But
this.
that was a non-professional. I'm talking about serious, actually going into
serious production,
studio makeup. Studio makeup, and it'd be good enough for him to do it for probably an episode of Doctor Who.
Maybe
which would be awesome if the BBC is listening. Of course, they don't listen to our podcast. Why would they?
Shake fist.
Share this podcast so the BBC will listen. Retweet.
I'm sharing as fast
share
as
on
I
Facebook.
can. I'm sharing as fast as I can.
But that's my opinion on who they should get to play.
I
Share
agree.
it with Big Finish. Sean Pertwee for the Third Doctor.
Big Finish has blocked me.
Maybe this time we'll actually hear Tim. But I could have sworn we heard
Yes.
Tim clear enough last time that he didn't sound that much like the Third Doctor.
No, yeah, he was passable
trailer.
for someone doing 1 or 2 lines, but he did not sound like a fitting imitation.
And not you, Enchanter. I mean the Tim that's playing
Of
the
course.
Third Doctor in this.
Yeah, of course. I was just like, I'm still working on my Third Doctor impression. You know, let me.
Of course, the big problem about getting Sean Pertwee to play the Third Doctor right now is he's a little busy playing Alfred the Butler on Gotham.
True.
Oh.
Well,
Yes.
well, Tim, let's see how your impression's going. Say to reverse the polarity of the neutron flow.
Well, I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow. I've reversed. No, that's technical.
That's the polarity of the neutron flow.
I reversed the polarity of the neutron flow.
Tim,
Don't
Don't
quit
quit
your
your
day
game.
job.
Oh, ouch.
Oh.
You're just good enough to play Cedrus, though, on Dark Empire 2.
Yay!
Yay!
yes, Tim could play an Imperial. There you go.
Dun, dun.
Speaking of Imperials, Aaron, want to kick us off with our non-Who news? Well, he's not an Imperial,
Not
but
Who
he
News. He's
fought
not an
against them.
Imperial. Well, actually, he was an Imperial, if you know anything about the...
True,
I guess
true.
I guess it would be considered Legends portion of the storyline now for Star Wars. But Harrison Ford is definitely going to be in the Blade Runner sequel. Blah, 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 blah. He will be reprising his role as Rick Deckard. I almost said Deckard Cain in this.
I was tempted to
That's
say
someone
that
What's
too.
else.
interesting about this is isn't Blade Runner the movie that Harrison Ford absolutely abhorred making?
I don't know
He
much
started
about
hating
it.
being part of it towards the end, but that's because literally everything that could have gone wrong was going wrong on set.
Oh, wow.
Not to mention the fact that they forced him, someone outside of the actual production group, forced him to come in and do voiceover work, which he was so disinterested in that he put no acting to it and figured they would never use it, but they did it anyways.
So, somebody
Oh, wow.
somebody must have changed his mind, because I seem to remember hearing that he wasn't even willing to watch the movie when it was finished, and now he's willing to be in the
Probably
sequel.
wasn't, but people mellow with age,
Yeah, that's
and
definitely
and
And-
you
and
know,
the
over
fan base hasn't
time,
gone
you know,
away.
he's probably watched it and went, hey, this isn't really that bad now that I'm looking at it.
just
And then-
just
and
like
then-
some of
and
the
then he-
actors that came back to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
via
And
Big
then
Finish.
and then he's hearing that they're making another one and they're interested in, and then he's probably like, well, whatever, and then they throw big money at him and he's like, okay.
Not to mention he injured his ankle not too long ago, so... Just kidding. He probably has enough money to pay off his medical bills no matter what, but... yeah, he actually...
Yeah, there we
Ridley
go.
Scott mentioned...
He got
Ridley
enough.
Scott
He got,
mentioned last year...
He's
Ridley
old enough to
Scott
qualify
mentioned-
for Obamacare, Aaron.
Yeah,
he,
Ridley
he
Scott
injured his
mentioned
ankle and
last
probably
year
got
he-
enough. He probably got enough of a settlement from Disney to purchase a replicant to act for him.
Blade Runner starring Harrison Ford's replicant.
Dun, dun,
watch that
dun.
movie. I would honestly
Wait,
watch
it's-
that movie.
Isn't that Mark Hamill? I say this because Mark Hamill actually played Harrison Ford on Robot Chicken once.
Ah,
Yeah. He did an impersonation of him. For the Armageddon sketch, I believe. Where they sent Harrison Ford up to blow up the asteroid. Anyway, yeah.
I'm
He's,
looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll
Mhm.
definitely be watching a sequel to Blade Runner. Blade Runner is, of
We
course, what the movie that started the cyberpunk genre as a
Pretty
much.
fandom.
And this is supposed to be set several decades after the first film, so that makes sense.
well,
It'd
I
have
hope
to
so
be.
if they're bringing Harrison Ford back.
Mm-hmm.
As the
Yes.
same
Digitally
character, yeah.
de-aged, yeah.
Yes. Now, is this movie going to address the is Deckard a replicant question?
We don't know.
That's what.
We don't know what the script is.
We already know that Ridley Scott's confirmed that Deckard is supposed to be a replicant.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ridley Scott has already confirmed that.
Of course, who's writing this, because it's not the original writer, because
It
he's
is,
dead.
Yeah, it's not Philip K. Dick.
No, it's going to be directed by The Prisoner's Denis Villeneuve.
That's not actually a good recommendation. I remember The Prisoner. I wasn't that fond of it. Who's writing it, though?
Producers are Andrew Kosov and Broderick Johnson in a joint statement.
I would point out that unless they've started shooting, what this year has taught me more than anything else is that don't trust who they say is writing it until they're actually pick the script.
Until they're actually filming.
Here we go.
Star Trek 3 going through 3 or 4 writers by now.
Yeah.
Or
Hampton
13.
Hampton Fancher and Michael Green have penned the screenplay, and it's supposed to begin production in 2016.
Which means they have plenty of time to rewrite the script by somebody else.
Yes.
I don't know either of those two, so I couldn't tell you.
Speaking of script rewrites and Ridley Scott properties, Tim, want to take us off with the next one?
Oh yes, Sigourney Weaver is going to be in a new Alien movie directed by Neil Blomkamp of District 9. But the exciting news. Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not fond of District 9. And that doesn't bode well for an Alien movie. Because District 9 was boring.
I could take it or leave it.
I liked it well enough.
Seeing it was no gain, not seeing it was no loss.
No, what I mean is the Alien movies are action movies. They're action horror. And District 9 is not action by any definition of the term.
Keep in mind, Blomkamp is now directed Elysium, and he is coming out with Chappie, both of which are heavily action-based movies. So.
But
wasn't Elysium panned by the?
For story, not for action, though.
Yeah, that means that he wrote it and they didn't like it.
Well, which are you worried about? Are you worried about the action,
that's right.
or are
He's
you worried about
directing.
the writing?
All of the abovery, but we'll see. All I'm saying is that they've kept trying to make Aliens repeatedly, and it keeps failing, so they need to have a good writing and good directing for this to actually work. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
That's fine. This new movie will take place immediately after Aliens and completely ignore Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, which, if I know my fan bases, that's probably going to be met with cheers, because the movies Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection would probably best be forgotten.
They're mediocre, bordering on horrible. I've seen them both.
I prefer 4 over 3, but that's largely because of the effects at the end of Part 4. I could definitely live without either of them.
I prefer 3 to 4, but that's because it has Paul McGann in it.
Yep. And Michael Biehn has been approached to return to the role of Corporal Hicks, and we even have some neato makeup test pictures of him. Yeah. He sort of looks like Freddy Krueger's half-brother. Because this is after he's been attacked by aliens and the acid melted his face off. Which is very cool.
And while we were talking about sequels being set decades later because the actors have aged, I'm pretty sure Sigourney Weaver might have a Lazarus pit because she doesn't look like she's aged all that much, at least not compared to someone like Harrison Ford.
I saw her on something the other day, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Other than her hairstyle, which has changed severely, yeah, she didn't look that different.
Well, if you've seen her in Avatar, in
No,
James Cameron's Avatar.
No, this was like an interview on like The Late Show or something.
Wait, wouldn't
yeah.
she have been blue if it were Avatar?
No, because she was part of the Earth Forces.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
She was the person that wanted to get the minerals.
See, that shows you how little interest I paid to that movie. I thought everyone was blue.
No, not everyone is the
I
Wild
actually
Smurfs.
like that movie, but really only for the cinematography, because it's my favorite example of 3D actually done decently.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to pointy things going at your face, which is like most of 3D.
Yes.
I think my favorite 3D shot of all time is when Jason Voorhees killed someone and their eyeball popped at the camera.
Again, that's still probably my examples of 3D done wrong.
Well, that was also back in the day when they had the red and blue glasses. So the effect wasn't that great either. We like it ironically is why we like it. Because it's so silly.
Yeah, the 3D in Avatar actually went in instead of out, so it actually kind of gave you a feeling of depth, which was kind of nice. But that's neither here nor there, and we are horribly off topic, and we are starting to run out of time.
Yeah, I was just about to mention we're low on time,
Oh
so we
my
might as well
God.
move on to our last two bits of...
Yep, so going from movies, we're going to briefly talk about TVs. It is March, and some of the series that have been coming out are starting to end. One of which that has hit its finale is Star Wars Rebels, the cartoon that has been on... what is that channel? What is it on?
I think it's...
Disney
The Hub.
XD?
Oh, that's right. It's not Cartoon Network anymore because...
No, it's Disney XD. You're right,
Yeah.
Aaron. It's
Okay.
Disney XD because it's a
Disney.
Disney cartoon. Yep. And I'm trying not to be spoilerific with it, but it is really hard to for this particular bit because it was such a huge event. One of the main characters in there was removed, was killed off. And they've added two new characters, one of which is a classic Star Wars character. And another one is a very popular character from recent times. Overall, I would actually say that the quality of the show has gone up a bit from when I first watched it. When it premiered, I think I covered it when it premiered several months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it was basically kind of like Aladdin meets Serenity, or Aladdin meets Firefly. And there's still a bit of that. I still chastise the main character for still being a bit too Aladdin-y. But the rest of the rest of the supporting characters, the quality of them has gone up quite a ways. There are several things that I've seen that feels like Star Wars to me, being a classic original trilogy fan.
Yeah.
And so I'm enjoying it. It has potential going into its second season of being a fairly decent show. Aaron reminded me the other day that Clone Wars didn't exactly start off on the right foot either.
Yeah.
That seems to be the case for a lot of shows, especially kids shows, where they start off a little too dumbed down and then start to develop into their writing as they go along. I mean, it happens a lot for shows aimed at an older audience as well, but especially with kids shows.
And sometimes sometimes they smart up not soon enough to save its life, like Tron Uprising. God damn it, that was a series finale that was annoying as hell because it was such a cliffhanger that we'll never see any more of.
Another season finale that occurred within the past week is for Marvel's Agent Carter. Of course, Agent Carter is essentially a show that is filling in for the mid-season for Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so there will, of course, be an episode next week. But the Agent Carter portion of the show has ended. Ultimately, I've found Agent Carter to be a little bit disappointing compared to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., just due to the downgraded focus. Instead of focusing on a varied, charismatic ensemble cast, it's focused on just a single person, and who, with well, only so much chemistry that can be had with the changes in the cast. I do think that this finale even actually makes a large way toward fixing that, due to wrapping up all of the varied subplots that are going on and giving the show something to start off with better for season 2 than it did for season 1.
Is there going to be a season 2?
I don't know, but I mean, if it is, I get the impression that it's going to be better than the first season. Last I heard, it was not necessarily renewed, but they hadn't definitely come out and said no, there won't be.
Yeah, because I had heard it was basically a mini-series event over 8 weeks, so mini-series does not necessarily mean that they're going to make another one.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, while you say you're disappointed in that over Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I tend to be disappointed in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. over, say, Flash and Arrow, which I find to be a lot more appealing to me plot-wise.
But they are a different type of show, and that's part of the issue with Agent Carter, is that it's even more separate. Like, people have criticized Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for not having enough Marvel elements in it, whereas I feel Agent Carter went even farther with that. It's not really until this last episode where it actually feels like something related to the Marvel Universe. But they actually do here, and they do take that seriously, which is, again, a plus for the finale here.
I tried watching the first episode of Agent Carter, and I really couldn't get into it. I kept getting distracted by other stuff, which is a sign I don't want to be watching what I'm watching.
Yeah.
Someone at Anime Milwaukee described Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as being mostly about world building. That with a lot of references, of course, to the Marvel Universe, but how everything is kind of interconnected. I tend to agree with Rand. I feel that Arrow and Flash kind of does that a little bit better with stronger characters that we know more about, whereas Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tends to focus more on the situations that they wind up in. The team dynamic overall.
Speaking, by the way, of Flash and Arrow, did you guys hear the rumor that there is going to be another Flash Arrow spin-off series next season?
Yes.
The ones with including characters that they're taking from both Flash and Arrow.
I know there's supposed to be an animated one coming out, and then I heard that there was a possibility of another as well.
It was officialized sometime this week. I saw the news article on it. It is going... the title of it has not been decided, but it is going to include the actors that play Roy Palmer, a.k.a. Adam. At least one of the characters that play Firestorm in the Flash.
And I just remembered Firestorm just flew away last episode, so yeah, he's getting ready for a new show. Okay. That makes sense.
Is going to be in it.
Kind of pulled a Barry Allen there.
Still
not sure how Felicity's going to end up as his stepmother, though.
The actor that plays Captain Cold on The Flash is going to be in it. And the actress that played Sarah Lance, a.k.a. the First Canary on Arrow, is going to be in it. Whether or not these characters are going to be playing the same characters they played previously, we don't know. No decisions have been made. Or if they have, they're not telling us. There's
and
also
that
going to be
wraps us up for news, I think.
There's also going to be 3 other superheroes never before seen in live action. So that's all I know. And so I guess that means we move on to our Silver Nemesis.
Yeah.
Yes, our beloved Silver Nemesis.
Well, that's a matter of opinion, but I'll ask before I start. Anyone else want to do the summary?
Not it.
Going once, going twice. Okay. So we start off, first of all, in 1988 with what appears to be an office somewhere in South America, it looks like, with a bunch of people who, judging by the paraphernalia, music, singing, and everything, seem to be Nazis. One of them is doing some work on a computer when he sees location coordinates suddenly pop up on his computer, and he gathers his group together and announces the formation of the Fourth Reich. Meanwhile, 250 years earlier, a medieval lady and her manservant are also working to piece together some calculations with a mathematician. She seems to be a very nasty, cruel type by the name of Lady Painfort. Meanwhile, in plot C, the Doctor and Ace are listening to jazz.
As they
Nothing
do.
special, just listening to jazz. The Doctor's digital fob watch. I'm going to take a moment to let that whole concept of ludicrousness sink in. Goes off, reminding him of something important which he's forgotten. They then retire from the jazz concert and pull out Ace's boombox, which the Doctor has rebuilt from the remains of the boombox that was destroyed in remembrance of the Daleks. And like any other thing the Doctor makes, he can't just make a boombox. He has to make the super uber ultra boombox of doom. And hooking up and putting in the notes and everything, discovers that there is a planet in danger of imminent destruction, and that planet is, of course, name it, anybody?
Earth.
Earth.
Because what other planet
Of
is
course.
ever in danger in the entire universe but Earth? Anyway, so meanwhile, in 1638, the mathematician finishes his calculations, mentions that the asteroid Nemesis is in orbit around Earth, coming about once every 25 years, but it is decaying and will eventually crash onto the planet Earth, where it took off in 1988. And yet, somehow, we never detected this on our radar. Ace was reading a note saying asteroid about to crash into Earth or on the newspaper, but still, you think we would have seen it before now. Anyway, the Doctor and Ace back in there also briefly dodged some pot shots from some weirdly headsetted people who tried to sniper them to death. And they need to go, and the Doctor needs to set things in motion. He arrives in Windsor Castle without permission from the Queen, and he's looking for a silver bow. Meanwhile, Lady Painfort, back in plot B, has a silver arrow and a potion, which allows her to jump forward 250 years in time using what the Doctor would later describe as black magic. She arrives where she left, 250 years in the future, which looks like her residence has been turned into a restaurant. Everyone is confused except for Lady Painfort, who takes all of this in stride as she decides to go look for the bow. Meanwhile, the asteroid crashes into the Earth. Police arriving on the situation are gassed by small protuberances coming out of the ground, and they're quickly followed up by the Nazis!
Oh, jeez.
We have
The Doctor and Ace
zeppelins!
also show up and are about to get shot by the Nazis when a large spaceship lands, and out of the spaceship becomes the Cybermen
Excellent.
in their new updated outfits.
Dun-dun.
A big battle ensues in which the Cybermen are basically mopping the crap out of the soldiers because, of course, the Cybermen are immune to all the bullets except for the fact that Lady Painfort and her manservant arrived and managed to kill them with gold, or at least one of them. The Doctor and Ace take the time to grab the bow, which the Nazis had, and flee. Lady Painfort, basically, the Doctor and Ace then go back in time to Lady Painfort's place to check up on some of the calculations and play a game of chess with somebody we don't know. That is actually never made obvious throughout the course of the serial. Meanwhile, the Nazis, the Cybermen, and Lady Painfort basically play the equivalent of King of the Mountain with who has the asteroid and the statue within it. First, it's the Cybermen. Then it's the Nazis, then it's Lady Painfort. When Lady Painfort gets it, she adds the arrow to the statue, which holds onto it. And then the Doctor shows up with the bow. He basically says some things. The statue comes alive, holds the bow for a moment, then the Doctor takes off, being pursued by everybody, of course, and then pursued by the statue. He goes back in time again to once again check up on something that I'm not sure why, and then goes forward to where the Cybermen first landed. During this whole merry melee, Ace managed to blow up the cyber spaceship, and they've been constantly jamming the cyber signal to the massive cyber fleet out in space.
Using
it finally winds
jazz
up in
music.
Using jazz music. Using the power of jazz. Using the power of horn blowing. As any fan of Trigun knows, horn blowing can actually be fairly deadly. In this case, it's deadly enough to jam a signal. Anyway, it all winds up in this warehouse with the Doctor basically programming the statue, a.k.a. Nemesis, a.k.a. a chunk of
Validium.
Validium, thank you. I almost said vibranium, which would not make sense. We were talking too much Marvel earlier. Chunk of Validium, which is apparently something left over from Gallifrey as a final defense mechanism. We can only assume that it was thus lost later in the Time War, but we'll discuss that later. To destroy the big honking cyber fleet. Thus, Lady Painfort shows up, the Nazis have been wiped out, and the remaining Cyberman shows up, and the Doctor, after a little bit of threatening cajoling by the other two, gives the bow to the Cyberman, who then uses it, gives it, and tries to take control of Nemesis, who promptly ignores him and blows up the cyber fleet. Ace manages to kill the Cybermen with a hunk of... or actually, excuse me, the manservant kills the Cybermen with a golden arrow, and they take him back in time, and a bunch of questions asked on who the Doctor really is, yada, 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 and a summary. Okay, we're back on schedule.
Hooray!
Yay!
I did cut a lot out of that summary, but that's okay, because this was a royally confusing episode.
Yes.
There was way too much going on for 3 episodes, which, again, this is the 7th Doctor era, the 25th season. This was meant to be the 25th anniversary special. And this was the era, of course, where they had basically 13 Doctor Who episodes per season. And that meant that they cut all the actual series down to about 3 episodes. Which made it hard to tell a good story, because that's basically an hour and a half. With breaks. So it's about a little over an hour worth of stuff. It's about the size, I guess, of one of the specials that we get nowadays. So, okay. So I guess we're going to go on to what we liked about the episode, huh?
I guess.
Yeah, probably if we have any other stuff to mention, I'd probably save it for after that, since we're down to about 55 minutes, so we should do our, likes, dislikes.
Yep. Okay, Matt, you're up.
So, something I liked about the episode. I like that while the title could possibly hint to what the episode is about, being Cybermen, that it's actually kind of a mixed bag title. It hints at the Cybermen, but it also hints at what the actual new addition to this particular story is, which is the Nemesis.
Yeah, this was not just a Cyberman title. It was also about Lady Painfort, also about the Nazis, and
yeah, that's also the other nice
itself.
thing is that even though we do have Cybermen and the Cybermen are doing their thing, they're not the only villainous focus on this particular story.
Yeah, and, this is also the first Cyberman-centric title, that has not been X of the Y.
Yeah.
It's
For a while.
That's probably also because I think the first draft was submitted before JNT said, "Oh, and Cybermen."
Probably, yeah. The story probably didn't have Cybermen, and it probably just had Painport and Nazis. And they added the Cybermen because of 25th anniversary, silver anniversary, Cybermen.
Yes.
Of course.
Of course.
So, Tim, what did you like about the episode?
I liked the
Whoa.
time travel in the episode.
Whoa. Yeah, Tim, tone it down.
Oh, I'm
Ouch.
sorry.
I think you blew out your mic there.
Yeah, holy smokes.
I'm sorry. I'll sit back. Is this
yeah,
okay?
Yeah, you're fine now.
You might want to check your Skype audio settings to make sure that your automatically adjust microphone settings are not on, because that was loud.
Well, he doesn't. I don't think that he has those on. I think he just gets very boisterous once in a while.
Yeah.
I'm in headphones, man. I think I just got tinnitus again.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. But I like
If
the
I
time
start
travel.
going meep at random. The time travel?
The time travel in this episode and how it played an actual integral part to the unfolding of the story, with Lady Painford traveling back in time and then the Doctor going back in time to her era. You know, I'm surprised at how how few stories of Doctor Who actually deal with time travel, or that it's one of those things where they time travel to a place and then they don't use it again for the rest of the story.
Yeah, but at the same time, it makes the episode really confusing.
I was perfectly fine with it.
Well, I don't think it was as confusing as some other episodes or other science fiction stories. I could sort of follow it along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still not sure what the second visit was for either, but I got the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bill, what did you like about the episode?
Sophie and Sylvester. Those two are just an absolute delight to see on screen together every time they're together.
Mm.
Ace and the Seventh Doctor are just amazing together, and this is one episode where they just shine when they're together.
Well, this is also the start of their second season together.
This is the end of their This is the end of their first full season together.
Yeah.
Because this was Dragonfire was Ace's first episode, and that was the end of Sylvester's first season. This was the conclusion till Sylvester's second season. Because the series started with Remembrance of the Daleks.
This was the third of 4 serials, although I don't know if it was shot in that order or not.
No, I think it was.
No, it
shot
wasn't,
last.
because Greatest Show in the Galaxy had already been shot.
Yep. So it was this, Happiness Patrol, Greatest Show in the Galaxy, then Silver Nemesis. Or, excuse me, Remembrance, Happiness, Greatest Show, this. Ugh.
Oh, this was produced before Happiness Patrol, so it was still like their third serial together, essentially.
Ah, I thought Happiness Patrol was in the early block. My bad.
Like Happiness Patrol aired right before this, and Greatest Show in the Galaxy right after. They were produced in the opposite order.
Weird. But either way, this was towards the end of the second season, so they'd had at least 3 episodes that they've been together, so they had managed to find their
if you're counting Dragonfire,
their chemistry.
3,
yeah. So they'd managed to find their chemistry. They knew what they were doing by this point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they definitely found their chemistry. We were watching the behind-the-scenes video.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in one of the alternate takes where they run up to the Nazis for the first time, they were heading back for, I think, like the 3rd time for a retake, and for whatever reason, Sylvester hopped on Ace's back, and Ace actually carried him all the way back to their starting position near the TARDIS while he kept himself balanced up on her back with his umbrella.
Yeah, well, you can do that because Sylvester's not the largest person in the world.
Oh no, I think she actually kind of towered over him already. He was not a huge man.
Well, he did mention behind the scenes that the most dangerous stunt he ever had to do in Doctor Who was having Sophie fall on him.
Yeah.
He was almost Bilbo Baggins, remember?
Yep.
He was almost old Bilbo Baggins, yes.
He's almost Hobbit-sized. But, that's the thing, though, is, I hadn't really seen this kind of chemistry between actors in Doctor Who since, really, Troughton and Hines.
Yeah, pretty much.
The
Pertwee and
Doctor...
Joe?
Pertwee and Joe didn't have this kind of chemistry. Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen didn't have... They had a different kind of chemistry that was just as
yeah,
good,
I get what you mean.
but they didn't have this kind of chemistry.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're almost like it's like having Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, just like Baker and Ward had a different type of chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not saying that those chemistries are bad or of any less value.
By no means, no. But this is the first time we've seen this
level of camaraderie.
Yeah.
Right.
These two yucking it up, obviously.
This is definitely the first TARDIS group since Jamie and Troughton that you could picture, just halfway through a serial, lounging out on the countryside, listening to jazz music.
Mm-hmm.
Which they did.
Although I think Jamie would have been a little confused by the tape deck. Actually, no. By the end of his run, he would have gotten it.
Yeah,
probably.
He did get that radio from Electromatics International, after all.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He was catching on to it quite quickly. He found the on switch.
So, Aaron, what did you like?
I actually kind of liked Lady Painfort. I actually kind of liked her. Like, I can understand why some people would think that she was out of place, or that, her acting occasionally could be a little stiff. But I was kind of, curious to see. There's obviously supposed to be something more to the story. I mean, something that was supposed to take place beforehand. And I would have liked to see, like, how he had... I wanted to see what the Doctor did to kind of piss her off as much as he did. Because she's already had to deal with it.
Well, he took her statue and launched it into space. I think that's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to have seen some of that.
Yes.
I mentioned this to Aaron while we were watching this. I think it would have been great if they had gotten back Bonnie Langford for this episode. And they would have done, like, the first episode being the Doctor and Mel pissing off Lady Painfort in the first place, and then coming back to it with the Seventh Doctor and Ace.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. See, I could even see this as either maybe 2 4-episode serials, like maybe with a serial in between to kind of break them up. Or I can see them as a 6-parter with the first two episodes dealing with the Doctor dealing with Lady Painfort, and then the rest of it dealing with the Nazis and Lady Painfort and the Cybermen.
I love this. The BBC budget is like, you get 3 episodes. You're like, yeah, this could be 6 or 8.
Well, I agree with Aaron that this serial needed to be longer.
I agree in that. With all of the elements that they put in there, it should have been at least a 6-parter. You could have trimmed a little. You could have trimmed it a little bit and made it a good 4-parter. Yeah, you could, if you trimmed it a little bit and improved the writing a little bit, it could have been a better 4-parter. But a certain producer should have known what can fit in 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is what I mean by it's confusing, is the fact that because it's only 3 parts, they have to advance the plot faster than it needs to. So you get a little lost because they're just moving too quickly. They're going from X to Y to Z, and you're not sure why they're going from X to Y to Z because they don't have time to stop and explain it to you.
Exactly, and I thought that she could have been fleshed out further. She was kind of an interesting. I guess some of that mystery kind of made her more of an intriguing villainess. They could have built it up. There's also hints that she knew of his true of the Cartmill identity. I guess you could say for the Doctor that the identity that Cartmill seemed to be trying to build up. That he was, obviously, some other more powerful Time Lord, such as Omega or Rassilon, known as the other. If you know,
but
if you know about
they never
the
explain
Master
how
Plan.
she knows, which was kind of
Yeah, they
Well,
never do.
she says the statue told her.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, still, it would have been cool if they had built her up as kind of a pseudo Time Lord or pseudo. Just,
No, please,
how
no.
much more savvy.
No. But I mean, she was kind of overshadowed by Morgaine being of a very similar mold the following season.
Yeah.
But she was sort of a prototype for that sort of character.
I would say that Morgaine was better in my opinion. But then again, Morgaine has a history being, one of the main villainesses of Arthurian legend.
Morgaine had a serial in which she didn't have to compete with David Banks and a faction of Nazis. So as a result, she ended up winning.
You don't even need the Nazis. If you have to compete with David Banks' ham, you're going to get overshadowed.
Even though David Banks didn't actually get that much time.
There are a handful of people that can out-ham David Banks. Jeremy Irons is one of them.
Brian Blessed.
Brian Blessed is another.
Fly, my Hawkman!
That's pretty much the only... William Shatner is a third. I think
either of the Bakers could give him a run for his money.
What about Christopher Walken?
I don't know. I don't know if that would outshine David Banks' ham.
No.
Nathan Fillion could.
I don't know.
But,
have you ever seen The Prophecy? He's really good in The Prophecy.
I'm now trying to figure out what kind of alien Christopher Walken would be if he were in a Doctor Who serial.
Why make him an alien? He could play Gabriel again.
No, we don't want prophecy in Doctor Who, just saying. Anyway, we're tangenting.
Fun series. Anyway.
So, what I liked about this serial, and I'm surprised Matt didn't claim this, is I liked the update to the cyber suits.
I was contemplating it.
And the special effects. Albeit this had a slight down of the fact that they had to respray the cyber suits at the last minute.
Yeah.
And it showed in pieces of the episode, but the new cyber guns and the changes that they made to the cyber helmets were, I thought, wonderful changes.
Mm-hmm.
The actors really liked it too, because that meant that they didn't have to get screwed into their helmets for the beginning of each shoot.
Yes, the helmets were better. The suits worked a little bit more efficiently with the actual design of the characters. The shoes were no longer getting stuck in everything.
Mm-hmm. And they had these huge gloved hands.
Which allowed them a little bit more movement and also allowed them to look like they could really crush something in their hands.
Mm-hmm. And, if you think about where cyber gloves were in the original Cybermen in the 60s.
God, yeah.
And then you see the evolution to these.
It kind of works.
And, of course, nowadays you're in power armor, so it doesn't,
But it still kind of works. And also, they put in the new mouthpieces where you can see the movement a little bit again.
Yeah, but they made it textured so that it was semi-opaque.
Yes.
Which was beautifully done. And I think they lit up when they talked, too.
Did they?
Or there was some light. There were some lights in there. I noticed it when David Banks was showing it in the behind the scenes that there were some lights in the mouthpiece.
And
I thought that was kind of cool.
So yeah, they tried to do it. They tried a little bit of best of both worlds to try and show off a little bit of that movement that we really like, but also make it kind of hidden.
I didn't realize until I looked more closely at this serial. I had always gotten the impression they had just taken the same ones that they had used since 1982 and just spray painted them chrome.
No, this was an actual full brand new cyber suits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Apparently much easier to put on and take off and to walk-in and other things.
Yep,
And they
although
chromed it up and made it all nice and shiny.
the last minute respray did cause some problems because, of course, the respray on the paint solidified, and it gave them walking problems and something they referred to as cyber crotch.
Yeah, they're essentially...
Which was the seams and the crotch kept splitting in the suit, so they kept having to re-sew the crotch.
They had to resew those particular parts a couple times.
And if Doctor Who had kept going on, there would have been probably a minor update to the suits in the next Cybermen story that would have fixed the cyber crotch issue, and we would have probably had the perfect 80s Cybermen in, like, 91.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
But, of course, the series was canceled. We never got to see it again. Okay,
Right.
What didn't you like? Matt?
Oh, what didn't I like? We've hinted on a couple of things. I have to say that there are moments where the dialogue kind of feels really stilted with certain characters, and I will probably make that an example later. But yeah, there's just some dialogue moments here and there that just made me tilt my head and go, really?
Well, yeah, and I can tell you why. That's because they had to shove 8 days worth of rehearsal into about 2 or 3 days.
True,
Yeah.
but you'd think that the rewrites would have caught something as silly as some of these lines, though.
Not always, because some of these actors were still trying to memorize their lines, not having enough time to input and change them. Especially supporting cast people who aren't used to their characters enough that they can say, I wouldn't say that.
Right.
So they just, recited their lines as given. And, once they got to that far, they're already memorizing their lines, so they're not going to change them. And, like I said, with the advanced production time, it's not like they had time to do much edits.
Right.
I've mentioned before that this was in the midst of the BBC asbestos scare of 1988, so half the BBC was closed down for asbestos removal, which means that every single BBC production was having the same problems at this time. I noticed the same day that they were doing day 2 rehearsals for Doctor Who, Red Dwarf was rehearsing on the 4th floor. And they were probably having the same problems too.
Probably.
Uh-huh.
By the way, just shared a really cool image of you guys that I found.
Oh yeah, I see it.
4 generations of Cybermen in fan costumes, and they have a chrome 80s Cyberman.
And apparently a 70s Cyberman. Yeah, it goes 60s, 70s, 80s, 2000.
Yep.
So, Tim, what didn't you like about the episode?
What I didn't like mostly was the Nazis.
Damn it, that was mine.
Oh, damn, yeah.
What about the Nazis? Because that may or may not overlap with mine.
Well, it's like, I'm sure everyone who's ever written a story has said to himself, are Nazis necessary for this story? And it's that they just seem superfluous to me.
Exactly.
To me. I mean, this story could have been carried just with Lady Painfort and the Cybermen.
Okay, here. I want to pose a question about that. If they had never added the Cybermen at the last minute, and it was just Nazis and Lady Painfort, would you still feel that way about the Nazis?
Admittedly, probably not. It's just that the 3 of them together, it's like there's a melting pot, but something isn't melting. It's just sticking there awkwardly. So it's that you would have to remove at least one item. And if I had to choose between Cybermen and Nazis, I would probably stick with the Cybermen. If I know that's a terrible choice to have to make, but We all have to make our own sacrifices.
Now the thing with the Nazis, and I haven't seen this in anything saying explicitly that's why they're there, but what seems to be the reason why they're there is due to the fact that it's an anniversary episode and the ties that at least post World War II visions of Nazis have had with science fiction. The heavy influence that sort of character has had on Doctor Who in the form of, for example, the Daleks or other stories with, very, very
Yes.
Nazi-inspired results.
Yes,
And that I
but
think is why they're
being-
here.
Being the
in the
typical
final,
Nazis, these are the worst typical Nazis I've ever seen.
and
I mean, they cut nearly every piece of dialogue that made us remind that they were Nazis
yes,
and not
And
a
that's the thing.
commando unit.
Right, and I do agree. In the final product, they might as well have been cut because until I went back and read TARDIS data core and other pieces of information, I didn't even realize they were Nazis. I was just like, why is there an old guy
the only
in the middle of the
reason you know
story?
they're Nazis in the final product is because the first scene you see the guy, he has a swastika on his desk. He's listening to Wagner, and when he gives a toast, it's to the Fourth Reich.
I
That's
honestly
it.
think all of his best lines were taken away and given to David Banks.
Possibly.
Somewhat. There is a bunch of deleted and extended scenes on the DVD release, and yes, this is a guy that stood on the pedestal with Hitler. He's apparently been hiding in South America to escape, the war tribunals. So he was a very big Nazi.
In a
And
4-part story, he might have been worth including.
And he kept
Yeah.
kept making these analogies to what Hitler would have wanted, and all of that got cut from the final product, except for I think 1 or 2 lines, and those aren't enough to carry this group as Nazis. This guy could have been just an ambitious multi-millionaire wanting power, and it would have served the exact same purpose in this story with what was left at the end.
Right. And I mean, my issue with what I was going to say is too many factions, and that really ties part and part with one and the other. If one faction, I mean, Pain 4 I would probably not remove, but the Cybermen and the Nazis are too similar to one another. In the final result, with it becoming a Cybermen story, the Cybermen end up getting the better role. I'd kind of also like to see what this is like if the Nazis were actually able to play the role they were written to.
I would have loved to see them being more typical Nazis. I would have loved to see, armbands for one.
Yeah.
For one, but that also depends on where they're filming. It might have been a bit awkward.
So, I take it that's what you didn't like, Bill?
Right.
All right, Aaron, what didn't you like?
I didn't like some of the special effects. Like, particularly the floating Nemesis statue was a little not very good looking. Like, you could tell they added some kind of animation around the edges of it to hide the blue screen effect, or tried to at least, and it didn't quite work.
And the fire on the rockets. Oh
Yeah.
God. I'm sorry. For even 80s, that was bad. That was Flash Gordon era special effects.
Yeah.
Which is why I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but you don't want that in a 1988 production that's using some CGI for the rest of it.
True.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but they were definitely not really the greatest either. For example, Randy pointed out that the bow that they were carrying around seemed kind of small, particularly in comparison to the arrow that was made to fit it.
Yeah, it was.
It was a short bow. And it might have been made short so that Sylvester McCoy wouldn't have any problems lugging it around.
Yes.
But still, still, it looked ridiculously small in the scene I saw. I'm like,
Well,
wow.
maybe Lady Painford is just a crappy sculptress.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not the special effects are bad in this, because some special effects are very, very good. The stuff that they did to make the statue and the bow and the arrows glow.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that was pretty good. That was pretty convincing.
That was good. You know how they did that, Aaron?
How?
That was basically a photoluminescent paint.
Oh, okay.
So basically, behind the cameras, they had guys with floodlights that they moved in sequence to that, so that the photoluminescent paint would glow.
I didn't
and
really
catch it on
like the
camera.
glowing effect because I think this was just because of the they had to use the equipment that was available at the time it was made, but the glowing kind of washed out all the features of the statue, and it just
Not that glowing effect was CGI, but when they're carrying around the bow and the arrow and it's glowing in sequence, that was what I was.
I thought it was the actual glowing based on the lighting and the paint for the statue. At least that's the impression that I got from the behind the scenes.
Normally it was, yes, but I think they did enhance it a little bit.
I think they
maybe they
enhanced
enhanced it too much then.
Mm-hmm.
Because they made the outfit they made. That was actually the actress playing Lady Painfort as the statue as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they had to coat her face, they made basically a mask of her face, and then sprayed that mask with the photoluminescent paint. So that was good special effects. But then you had these other groaning special effects, and the combination of the two was just kind of broke you out of the
A little too jarring, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
The fire coming out of that thing didn't bother me. It was the fact that this thing was also apparently flying with a tripod stand of some kind on the bottom. It just looked really awkward. Like the actual object itself.
The fact that their thrusters were essentially looked like butane lighters.
I was gonna say, I think I believe one of the quotes I quoted from Mystery Science Theater while watching was, this thing might move a little bit faster if they weren't burning so much oil.
It looked like butane to me. It looked like somebody had stuck like 3 lighters onto the end of the thing and just,
Mm-hmm.
It was laughable, because that's kind of stuff I expect from old Flash Gordon, and not Doctor Who, because they had gotten thrusters right 10, 15 years ago, and suddenly they can't. It's like NASA. Apparently their technology just deteriorates over time. Okay, so what I didn't like about the episode. Well, Tim took my Nazis and Bill took my Nazis.
I'm sorry.
You know what? I'm still going to say Nazis, because, God, they were irrelevant.
Have you mentioned the Nazis?
Knows it.
The thing is, they were either over-the-top Nazis when you first see them to just being bland. So it was like...
Not to mention they were also incompetent.
Yes. But you expect that from Nazis. You really do.
To a degree.
Still, I would also have started mocking them at some point. There's the Painfort and the Cybermen and the Doctor going at it. You almost want to see one of them in the background going, "I see nothing!" Because at least that would be personality.
Yeah. When I think of it, Terry Nation writes much better Nazis.
Yeah.
And he's not even writing Nazis.
Yeah. There was no character to these guys. Other than the main guy had a little bit of personality. The rest of these guys were generic.
His main personality was, "Oh, you young people today trying to rush in and do things."
Hey, you get off my Nazi lawn. Hey, you get off my swastika. Kind of what he was like. And yeah, I don't really... They were absolutely pointless to the story as it was written, or as it was aired. It could have been done so much better. with a different group that they were able to inject a bit of personality into or just removed entirely, that it's worth them getting a second or third shout out as being the problem with this episode. So, scene that you liked, Matt.
Scene that I liked. I liked the out of nowhere reveal of the Cybermen. I mean, obviously we knew they were going to come, but all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, here comes a ship. Does it look familiar? Not particularly. All of a sudden, the doors open, and here we got a whole platoon of Cybermen marching out with their new outfits.
Figured you would like that.
I also have a few runners-up, but I will wait and see what the others are.
Tim, your favorite scene?
I have some runners-up too, but my absolute favorite scene is the scene where the Doctor and Ace play keep away with the bow from the Cybermen and the Nazis.
Yes, that was a very good scene, and it was really good Doctor and Ace lineage there. All right, Bill, your favorite scene?
I'm going with the scene where the Doctor and Nemesis essentially fool the Cybermen into not realizing that they're going to destroy the Cyber fleet. And I almost had this tied with one other scene. The problem is that the scene that it was tied with involves a gross misunderstanding of what Gold does to a Cyberman.
Yeah, I think
that
that's
other
probably
scene was Ace with the slingshot.
Yeah, we'll cover that probably in least favorite scenes, but Aaron, your favorite scene?
My favorite scene. Have we mentioned the scene where Ace tells the Doctor that she's a good girl? But I'm a good girl.
The first or the second time?
I think the first time when he asks her, where he tells her, like, you wouldn't be, you wouldn't be hiding any explosives on you, would you?
Especially after I told you not to be carrying them. Or to be making any more of it.
She's like, of course not, Doctor. I'm a good girl.
Yeah, that's a classic
spaceship.
Ace and Doctor scene.
That was a running gag throughout this season because by season 26, it's just like, Ace, I need a hole. It's just assumed that she has it, but this whole season it's like, are you carrying some of that Nitro 9 I told you not to carry?
Not to make any more of, and you wouldn't happen to be carrying it along with.
Yeah, that was just by the next season. The Doctor's like, hell with it.
I think that's how Ace is introduced in Light at the end. The Doctor's like, Ace, you don't have any of that Nitro 9 I told you not to carry, do you? No, of course not. Blow that up. Okay.
Okay, so my favorite scene has to be the fact that David Banks' Cyberman is a badass. And regardless on the fact that gold doesn't work that way, he's still incapacitated by a gold coin, which he manages to rip out of his cyber chest and stand up and deal stuff because he's David fucking Banks.
I am the cyber controller. I will fuck you up.
He's the cyber leader, not controller. That's a different character.
Leader, yeah.
But
I
just
keep
because
the names.
Because it's just kind of a scene of epic Cyberman badassery, I thought that was kind of cool. All right, so what was your worst scene, Matt?
Oh, worst scene. And I hate to say it, but Lady Pinafore had probably one of the worst scenes, I think. And that's the one where she is talking to, I forget his name, the manservant.
Richard.
She's talking with Richard, and she's kind of talking about how good of a guy he is, and how he's been able to protect her and help her out and all this. And then she just goes, "But I'm evil." What?
Yeah, it's
the
like,
scene where she's like, "Why would you save my life? You're good, and I'm evil."
Yeah, it's reminiscent to me, and this is after the fact, of the Lost in Space movie, where Dr. Smith tells the rest of the group, "There's evil here. How do you know? Because evil knows evil, and I am evil."
Spiders!
Yeah, it's kind of that same level of cheese, which, basically just makes me think of Lady Painport and the movie version of Dr. Smith as the power couple now. Think about that, let it stick to the inside of your eyelids. So, Tim, what's your least favorite scene?
Probably the scene where Lady Painford and her manservant get picked up by that southern woman.
No!
Oh, God!
God damn it, you took my scene. Fucking lady. She can fucking...
I don't mean to. I swear I don't mean to. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I thought Matt was going to take this because he was like, it's a Lady Painfort scene, and I'm like, no!
No, it was a different one. It was just as clunky.
Oh, God.
I could not... Every instant this scene was on, I was just like, please end.
Oh, God. And yes, she just had to be from, the accent sounded like she was from Texas or Oklahoma. And, of course, it's that stereotypical Southern accent sounding just, oh, God.
Actually, that accent, at least in movies, is normally used to portray Georgia.
It's not Georgia. I've been to Georgia.
I'm saying, on screen,
Georgia.
It's usually used to portray Georgia. Like, nobody I know from Georgia has ever sounded that way, but on screen, it usually is,
But that particular accent sounded... I don't remember the character it's supposed to be parroting, but it's the darn tap-dancing poodle from Rescue Rangers. Oh, God. But, yeah, that hoarse, southerny accent, and I'm just like... And it's obviously not this person's natural accent, and I'm just like, go away!
All things in time and space will soon be mine. I bet they will, sugar.
And
face.
so clueless. And because the entire purpose of that character was to say, hey, look, Americans are clueless.
To which,
And I'm
fuck
like,
you.
Yeah, kind of. Just go the fuck away.
I think the person who did the casting is more clueless than the Americans.
Yeah.
The person who let that scene get written and shot and
edited in.
There was, and it was an absolutely pointless scene that could have been replaced by actual plot relevance.
The thing is, it was probably one of those things put in there because they were afraid of Doctor Who getting too dark, but there were plenty of funny moments with the Doctor and Ace in this episode where they could have just put in another one of those if they had to.
Yep, and, that time could have been used to help let the Nazis be Nazis.
Yeah. Could have had a funny scene with the Nazis.
Or even just character development. Let them break out from being bland. Instead, we get that.
Beast of a scene.
So, all right. So, what's your least favorite scene, Bill? Now that one's been taken.
Next least favorite scene here, I would go with. I'm trying to pick one. I'm trying to figure out which one. I have an idea in mind. I'm just trying to pick out which scene would stand out the most for it. I can't figure out a specific one, but just generally, the Nazis being impotent, which I'm sure happens at least 3 times in here, because they're just pointless for so many scenes. I'll go with that as the next.
All right. Well, we've already covered that.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, what's your least favorite scene?
Shooting the freaking parrot, or trying to shoot the freaking parrot. Again,
in the opening.
Pointless. Yeah, at the very beginning, a pointless scene. Doesn't even. All it does is illustrate the fact that this person is obviously the villain of the series because he's shooting at an innocent bird with a bow and arrow.
Or about to, yes.
they could have at least put a Nazi-like gun in his hand. I don't know exactly.
But Aaron,
I'm not
that's
very
more
familiar.
character development than he gets in the rest of the serial combined.
Yeah.
There are more subtle ways, there are better ways of indicating not only is he a bad guy, but he's supposed to have an affiliation with the Third Reich. Like, he could be wearing a Nazi uniform, or a pseudo-Nazi uniform, or he could be aiming one of the many guns that the Nazis use, particularly one of those terrible pistols that tore through people so easily.
Yeah, he could be using a Luger.
Yeah, he could have not been shooting the pair at all. He could have been looking down the courtyard. One of his servants is misbehaving. He takes out a Luger and shoots him or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be too violent for a lighter Doctor Who. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a six
I would
Doctor
agree.
scene.
That would be a villain actually acting like a villain.
Was pointlessly stupid. It was, what the fuck, really, that was dumb. And now,
yeah.
My least favorite, we mentioned it earlier, I'm mentioning it now. Slingshot of gold coins into cyber chests.
Depends upon the power of the slingshot, but I don't get the feeling that slingshot's that powerful.
Terrible understanding of gold, it would be possibly my favorite scene there, but just due to the logic behind it takes it from being that.
Unless these cyber chests have giant titanium fans moving fast enough before their ventilator units to grind the gold into dust, it doesn't work that way. And it's kind of a devolution of it. It's they've kind of forgotten why gold did what it did.
Then again, the gold, I mean, in context of the serial, it's not as bad because there's all the fucking gold arrows, which are even worse.
Yep. Yeah, they've forgotten why gold is a cyber weakness. The only one that gets it right, ironically, is the Nazi, who hits one of the Cybermen with a handful of gold dust.
Uh-huh.
Matter of fact, didn't he hit the cyber leader with the gold dust? I thought.
Yeah.
Cyber leader survived gold twice.
By the way, to quote comic book guy, worst cyber scream ever.
That was actually a quote.
No, well, paraphrase. Because, yeah, the Cybermen dying had some of the worst screams I've heard. All right.
Speaking of cyber screams, since it hasn't come up yet, I just have to mention...
We're out of time, Bill.
I know. The cyber roar of frustration has to be acknowledged because it's such an un-Cybermen thing to do.
But
destroy him!
Cheese.
Yes.
It's David Banks at his cheesiest. Okay, so now we're going to our final thoughts. Matt.
I think either this needed to either be expanded a couple episodes or needed to get rid of a few elements that didn't need to be there. Otherwise, I thought this was a fairly decent and as best they could pull together episode overall. End of my thoughts.
All right, Tim?
I really enjoyed this episode, and I think it approached greatness, but like we've been talking about, some of the elements were a bit superfluous that just bring it down slightly, but it's still a very entertaining episode, and I'm glad I watched it.
All right, Bill?
The production episodes this problem's had have seriously limited its potential. All of the extra bullshit that J&T wanted to add to it also severely hurt it. As a result, it is, as many people have mentioned, not the best serial, but I actually cannot consider it to be the worst Cyberman story, particularly with some of the great moments in it with, the Seventh Doctor and Ace and such, so... It ends up being somewhere closer to middle of the road.
All right. Aaron?
It needed to be longer, in my opinion. It needed to be longer, or it needed to be it needed to be like a 6-parter or 2 4-parters, split up in between. So, could have been better if not for that.
All right. Well, I agree that this either needed to be longer or it needed to be simplified. Unfortunately, the staff knowing full well that they were going to be under a production crunch, decided to make it more complicated, which is exactly the wrong executive decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
And
maybe JNT wanted to be fired.
I think he was trying to at the end, but regardless, there was a whole bunch of wrong executive decisions making this. It was obvious that they were having no help from the upstairs, and it really shows that this episode needed to be changed, and it wasn't. And it just led to a whole bunch of little things that could have made this a great episode, and instead, it's basically Remembrance of the Daleks, but worse. So,
yeah, pretty much.
Ratings, Matt.
Some of the technicalities, this could have been such a really good episode, but the major things that do pull it back are a couple of flubbed effects and some major rewriting issues that should have happened but didn't. Therefore, I can't honestly give it a 4. I can, at the very best, give it a 3.5.
And is that your rating?
Yes.
All right, 3.5. Tim.
I was very entertained. I'm going to give this a 4.5.
All right. 4.5. Bill.
I'm actually going to say that upon rewatching this, I actually found myself enjoying it more than I did either of the previous 3 serials. So I'm actually going to give this a slightly higher score than Earthshock and Attack and give it a 3.5.
All right. I do not enjoy this as much as I enjoy Attack. I'm going to say that for the record, Bill. But I'm going to go to Aaron first.
Okay, I'm going to say that this wasn't a miserable undertaking. It was okay. It was 2.5 for me.
2.5?
2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes it Aaron's lowest rating this season, for the record.
I wonder if that's on par with Twin Dilemma.
I'll have to look later.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, this is nowhere near Attack of the Cybermen. It's nowhere near Earthshock. I think this has to go about on par with Revenge of the Cybermen for me, because just the hokey special effects, the rushed dialogue, and the superfluous characters and events makes it a bit of a confusing episode. It has some good special effects that would lean it up, but not enough. I think I'm going to have to give it a 3.0 flat.
That gives us a 3.4 rating overall for the week, which puts it between Wheel in Space and Earthshock.
Yeah. It's in good company still. Could be better, but it could have been a lot worse too with the way they were going at it.
So that'll do it for our thoughts on Silver Nemesis. Next week we are going to move into New Who and deal with the first
2 Doctors.
There are no Cybermen in 2 Doctors.
That's what I mean. We're skipping. Well, actually, we're skipping 3 Doctors if you count the War Doctor, but let's not, because he isn't even introduced by series.
There are no Cybermen in 8 unless you want to look for audio adventures, and let's not.
Yeah. Not right now.
There are no Cybermen in 9 unless there are some in novels somewhere, which I am not aware of. So we will move onwards to their first appearance of the Cybermen in New Who.
Yep.
Albeit not really the Cybermen. But they're still Cybermen.
They're technically still Cybermen. Anywho.
So, go ahead, Bill, with our end of episode disclaimer.
Yep. And if you want to keep watching our episodes, you can watch us at twitch.tv/Unearthly Podcast, unearthlypodcast.insomniatic.co.uk, and mixcloud.com/n_unearthly_podcast. You can catch us on social media at Unearthly Podcast on Facebook or Unearthly Pod on Twitter. And of course, if you wish to help us out, you can catch us on Patreon at Unearthly Podcast. And don't forget to join us next week, as we mentioned, for Rise of the Cybermen as the introduction of Cybermen to New Who.
Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel.
Yeah, Rise of the
two-parter.
Cybermen, Age of Steel. I usually refer to this two-part serials by the first episode.
No, I usually refer to them with the slash in there. So.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Alrighty. So that's it for tonight. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Nighty night.